begin all my classes is taking just a couple minutes to breathe deeply and to perhaps get centered. And so I'd invite you, if it's helpful, to close your eyes, sit in a way that you feel relaxed and maybe not going to fall into a deep slumber after lunch. Yeah. Right. So maybe just take a number of deep breaths. Perhaps if there's any tension in our minds and our bodies, any weight we're carrying in our hearts, we just acknowledge that. And if we can, surrender that. Maybe if you just think for a moment, now for a heartfelt thanksgiving for what's in your heart to be thankful for. Who is in your heart to be thankful? Maybe about 3 more breaths, and each one of you hold a little bit. And we're back. I was trying to think of the last time or last times I felt like what I'm feeling now. And I've been blessed to say there's been a number of times, so I'm not surprised by the feeling. When I first went to Guatemala as a missionary years ago, I can remember going to villages, and what I'm wearing today, this vest, is a shout out on the Dia de las Razas of los Guatemaltecos, Guatemalan people that I worked with. And I went in the communities where my Spanish was rough at the time, and I didn't know Cachiquel or Kekchi, and I had to at least have enough words to be able to, as they say, to concentrate. And confessions are special because people would come to me and they can confess whatever, and I knew the words of absolution. God bless you all. Forgiven, forgiven. But the feeling was one of excitement and one of nervousness and one of vulnerability. And I was loved so much by the people of Guatemala that they transformed Paulo to Pablo. So that's where you kind of get those 2 names going at you, Paulo, Pablo, who is this guy? So deep within, there's this sense of thanksgiving when we're thinking about who we're thankful for. I'm so thankful for the people that transform me into who I am today. And so as I come here before you today, I have that same feeling of vulnerability. And I hope I always am a child in the sense of my inner child is alive and well with you. And I could delight in you, and the Spirit can move amongst us. And even just in these days, there's this kind of a cool feeling. It's like maybe these people are going to be mine. But isn't that like cool? It's like, wow, I'm part of a group. Yeah, I'm connected. Then there's a sense of like God saying, maybe there's another way to be with people. So this is, I have to tell you, this has been a surprise to me. This is not my 5-year plan. Everyone that's singing the siren song to me of retire, you're gonna retire. What do you need that for? You need it. So anyways, I'm very thankful, and for those who brought me to being here today and to be with you. What I'm feeling seriously in being with you in prayer, in your hearts, you're singing and praying with you. There's and Channing was speaking of it. There's like a light. It's like starlight. It's like I can feel it. I can sense it. It's coming out. It's really, really beautiful to be able to see us how we are. So what can I share with you? What would be helpful? Pretty much, I did some of these town hall meetings. Some of you are part of. I was telling John and Leo that they could probably do this for me. Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, and Bishop Peter and I were reminiscing about days of kind of charismatic days in Southern California, part of Calvary Chapel, and being transformed. I was in a minor seminary run by the Vincentians, Vincentian brothers and priests, and I was connected to the Vincentians for 22 years. So St. Vincent is St. Louise are very dear to me. They're connected to what they did in their day and what they continue to call us to in service to those who've been, the word I'm trying not to use, though it's been in my mind a lot. It's like, it's my word that my students are teaching me about is like, you should be saying marginalized, okay? Because just not poor. It's like there's reason why they're poor. Even saying on the margins, which I was saying for a while, they're like, well, how do they get to the margins? Okay. Yeah, there's a connection here, right? So that's speaking of that, the education I received from the Vincentians, I'm very thankful for. I was getting ready to be a missionary, and I was up at CTU and Chicago Theological Union up in Chicago, and I spent 2 weeks on the streets. Back then, they would just like say, "Oh yeah, this part of a class, go live in the streets for 2 weeks." So I spent some time in the Catholic Worker House, which is good. Got to meet Father Roy Bourgeois. This one you might have heard before. Kind of helped start this protest at Fort Benning, the School of American protest. Yeah, so after ordination, this is a piece of the story. Oh, it's 1:25. I think I have 5 minutes left. Okay, I'll go. But in preparation for ministry to go abroad, I was originally planning to go to Africa. That was my plan, and I was thrilled about going to Burundi. I was learning French, went to Quebec, and everything was okay. Heading to Africa, I was learning French. And after doing that a lot, preparing for that, ready to go there, the bishop there said, I can't take anyone right now because the visa situation is so hard. So you can't go. So I made a 3-day big nation retreat instead of going to Burundi. And when I finished that, the provincial said, well, you still want to be a missionary, you can go to Guatemala. I don't speak French in Guatemala. I got D's and F's in Spanish in high school. And I had prejudice. Like it was like California, not my friends are Mexican Americans, but people right from Mexico, right? You know, they're kind of rough and tumble, and I was like afraid, and probably had some prejudice. And anyway, so I get go to Mexico right after ordination, and I was back in '85, and was in the earthquake when it took place in '85. Some people can remember that. They say it was like 50,000 people died. Horrible, horrible. But I started learning Spanish, and then I fell in love with Mexicans. And then I eventually fell in love with a Mexican. After working for years in Guatemala, I came back to the States and tried to. Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. Our friends on Zoom cannot hear him, so we're not. Goodness sake. Sorry, excuse the technical difficulty.
You're just building anticipation and suspense for whatever comes next.
Well, I'm sorry, what was that? Someone said something. Oh, sorry, let me. So, I think this little part of the story, fell in love with an amazing woman, Rosa Maria, who hopefully you'll meet these next couple of days. And the hardest decision, one of the hardest I had to make in life was because I felt called to priesthood, and then I felt called to marriage, and I had that feeling of, do I cut off the right leg or the left leg, the right leg or left leg, and that went on. As my wife said, for too long. I'm not going to tell you how long it is, for too long, and then we got married, and I got a call out of nowhere to go down to the Dominican Republic to work at Creighton University as the director of a semester abroad program, and that led me to be there for 7 years. Two of my children were born there, and then I came back to the States and been working at Regis University for the last 18 years. So I never thought I would have a career in higher ed. It's like, that was not part of my plan. But it's been a privilege to work with students over the years, and yeah, it's just amazing. And then even the connections, as we're talking today, I was letting people at Regis know about this, and one of my fellow workers there said, yeah, you gotta get in touch with Trish Bonnie. She's a good friend of mine. And this is Mary McManus, and Mary's husband was one of the people who helped start the Romero House program that I've been working with for the last 18 years. And then John, right? John, your fine uncle was the founder of that, Father Kevin Burke. So it's just kind of fun to kind of get the connections of all these different ways that my life has been woven by the Spirit. That's the best way I can say it. And that's one of the fun things I love. One of my favorite things to do is asking each of you, how did you get here? What was your story? What brought you here? And whenever I hear it, I'm always just amazed. It's like, wow, it's so unique, and yet it's a common story, right? It's something of finding freedom, is finding companions, finding others that have been through something similar. Others that you could say, hey, look at my scars. You got the same ones, right? Yeah, I got those, and I've healed from those, and I have joy in my life again, and around others that have gone through that, and are somehow bonded to me. So I'm gonna so maybe a little bit more. When I came back from the Dominican Republic, came back, got involved with Casey's back there, and Greg over there, and we began praying together, and the Spirit was leading us towards Church of the Beloved, and that has been our community for the last 18 years. Okay, thank you. 18 years. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, when you look in the mirror, I know we're all getting a little bit older, but when I look at the kids, then you're like, dang, what have we done? And so it's, and as far as being a dad, I gotta tell you, I never ever thought of kids. Never. I was like, I'm a celibate guy, you know. Well, priest, that's never gonna happen to me. And then having kids, I cannot tell you what life changing that was. And just pure joy. It's like, whoa. Not there hasn't been some roller coaster rides in it, but I'm very, very thankful. And then the 3 grandchildren. So I tell my college students that sometimes in the years past, they would look at me as being like the father figure that might have a lightning rod in my head, and somehow I need to project onto a father figure how to get it. So nowadays I start by telling them, think of me as a grandpa, a good grandpa, and maybe you don't need to project onto the good grandpa. Say that for your dads. Okay? Yeah, so anyways, enough. I know there'll be another session, so if you have some questions, but I think if there's anybody who would like to ask questions, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share. Yes.
Can you share your vision for the ECC?
Vision for the ECC. Yeah.
I have a question.
One of the things I've been having this image, and I overheard it again with Jamie this morning about the baton, wanting to pass the baton. And as I'm like trying to run and pass it, where are they? Are they on the sidelines? Are they hiding out? I just have to run faster to catch up to them. So there's a sense of an urgency. I'm sure it's a time of life thing. Is like, how do we pass on this beautiful legacy that we've received? How do we do it? I know that that's a burning question for many of us, and I can't help it. I look at my own children, right? How do I pass on what I believe is good and beautiful to the next generation? So, yeah, so I think that's one of the visions I would hope that we have is like, how do we pass this on? And not sort of a sense of like, of a crazy urgency, like, oh my gosh, if we don't do it, right? But it's more like, Spirit, I know you're leading us. I know this is important. How can I be your servant to those in need? Those of the next generation, as we saw in the graphs too. Why are people kind of saying this is why I'm part of this? Why are ladies saying that? And think about inclusion, right? An inclusive community. Think about being with the marginalized, right? That would be a vision I would have. Is like, get out there on the margins. Give our lives to those on the margins and be those who have been marginalized, and get into the issues of why people are marginalized. There's like huge things that we need to be in touch with and transformed by. Bishop Francis was telling us, oh, happy history of St. Louis. Thank you. But those are those things that I'm learning about, we're learning about, and how do we take them to heart and say, I want to be a part of the transformation of systems and society, so that I don't just pass on that again, right? I think we're saying like, no, on a church level, I don't want that. And on an empire level, I don't want that. How do we see ourselves in relationship to other countries to say, no, we went down a wrong path. And it's a path that leads eventually to destruction. We want to get off that. Another vision I would have is I would hope that all of our communities and each one of us takes up the baton of, we got to care for Mother Earth. We have to be changing our way of being, right? And young people are really aware of that, right? And they're pointing the fingers at us, right? It's like, what did you do to the world? That was my parents. No, okay. No, but really, it's us, right? So how do we respond to the needs of the time, right? And another vision I have, there's so much beautiful creativity in this room. The youth that we meet and we get to know, I would like to see them empowered to like say like, what is your vision at church? What is your vision? This is what we kind of came to. How do we give you the freedom, the space to create church that speaks to you and speaks to your contemporaries? You know, what we were doing this morning speaks to me. But I think, well, my students would be like, well, this is just not for me. So what is that? How do we become relevant, right? And still be who we are. So those are some things, but I would think our youth are gonna have to take the lead on that, and we have to empower them to take the lead. Yeah, I hope that's helpful. Yeah. That's just some of them. Any other questions? Oh, yes, please.
So what have you been doing in Regis?
At Regis, I've been co-director of our Center for Service Learning, and been doing some teaching and directing our Romer House program, taking students on pilgrimages to El Salvador, Guatemala, down to the Dominican Republic. We connect students with the community. I'll tell you just recently, just the other day, in fact, Mother Roseanne was part of this. Mother Roseanne, there she is over there. So we do listening sessions. That's one of the things we do. And we invite people from the community to share their stories. Other day was down at our St. Francis Center, the Episcopal outreach to people on the streets, and I was recruiting people to come to talk to our students. And we break the classroom down into groups of maybe 4 or 5 students, and we go to our dining room where we have coffee, and I was like getting sweet bread, I call communion, and we just invite our guests to share their stories. And when people hear, our students hear their stories, there's always a sense of like, oh my gosh, and our hearts are broken and our minds are blown. And just a shout out to Mother Roseanne. People are saying, who is this woman? She's incredible. And she shared her story, and people were just inspired. Young people were like, oh my gosh, I didn't know a Catholic could be like that. I didn't know they did that in the Catholic Church. Yeah. Another thing, my wife, she recruits local immigrant families, and we have our students go into their homes as guests. And the first hour, they go in groups of 3 once a week. The first hour is in Spanish, and then the second hour they're tutoring the children. And we love to speak to that as our philosophy in service learning, which I think speaks well for us anyways, because a lot of our images, I always tell this, I have to do this so that they can see the it's like, here we are, let's get back to the fourth thing, and I got resources. We're gonna help this one. Yeah, let's help them out because they really need a hand. You need a hand, right? Let's help the poor people. And when I think about that way of doing things, it's like a kind of an old way of doing it. I grew up with some of that, right? I did. I have to submit it, but now I'm like, when I tell my students about this, I usually get in this format and I do this. Throw up when I hear that, because it's mutuality, brothers and sisters. It's not mutuality. I don't want to be part of it. So when we go to those who are marginalized, I need to be transformed. We need to be transformed. The gift of transformation by being with those who've been marginalized is something that's mutual, right? It's give and take. Yeah, so those are some of the things that I've been privileged to be a part of at Regis. Hopefully that was helpful to hear a little bit.
There's a question from Zoom. How important to you is planting churches?
I love what Bishop Francis said yesterday about kind of is it?
Question.
Yeah, we're
Repeat the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Repeat the question, yes. What are my vision about planting churches? We know there's a need, right? We know there's so many people that need what we have received. So I see a huge need for it, but I also know George helped me really understand about the volunteer army. Volunteer army, that's what we're volunteer army, right? So meaning a lot of people have jobs and another job and they're tent makers, right? And so how do we do that with the people we have, right? How do we invite other communities to come into existence? And I think if people learn more about us, then it'll be like, well, how do we do it? And then we'll have to be saying, well, we're going to send people from your community to go and visit you and share their story, right? So I think if we go down that path, which I hope the needs out there, if people call us, it'll be us. It'll be us going, yeah, I need to reach out. So I need to go to that community and share how we came to be. So, but I feel like it's sort of those things kind of like 12 steps. It's like kind of people come because they feel called on the inside. They're ready for it. They feel called. I think we need to get the word out, but I feel like there's something about the invitation. Like they find out about us and then they respond, right? Still out there. So I think it's really important. Hopefully that was helpful for whoever asked that question. Okay. Oh, one more. Arturo.
You get elected as our presiding bishop, you'll be accountable to us, right?
Yes.
So, how would you tackle the accountability of your fellow bishops, sisters and brothers, being accountable to their diocese without putting the unity among the bishops?
That's a really, really good question.
Repeat it. So they can.
But we don't have enough time for the answer. So tomorrow,
Repeat the question.
I'll repeat the question so that we could all think about that. If I could, tell me if I'm wording it correctly.
Bishop Frank spoke about being skilled in handling diversity.
Being skilled in handling diversity. Bishop Francis spoke about that.
And,
Yeah, we agreed to that.
Said that, since you will be accountable to die to the communion, and I believe each bishop is accountable to their diocese. So, but when we, as a diocese, call for help to the bishop, and there's no response, because they support each other in a quiet way. So I said, how do you tackle that?
Okay, right. And again, thank you for the easy question. That's not just like the one elephant in the room. There's like a whole bunch of them. I say a herd of elephants in the room. No, sorry. But so to continue with that question of, since if I am elected, I'm accountable to you all, and we have this sense of diversity, but also a sense of being a bishop's council together and calling bishops together, how to respect what each diocese has formed, as well as how we're together, right, in our diversity. Yeah, so and that was the question that came for those on Zoom, and we're giving everyone a lot of time to think about that in case you didn't think about it already. And I'll respond to it when I'm praying to Our Lady of the Knots. Have you ever heard of Our Lady of the Knots?
Yes. Untie of knots.
Untie of knots, thank you. Thank you, Trista. Untie of knots, Our Lady of the Entire Knots, right? So I just feel like there's conundrums that we get into. And I'm a person that believes in unity and believes in prayer and believes that the Spirit does things that it's like, how is that possible? And I know that it comes from love, because when I get centered in love and I'm really, really tied together with people in love, somehow I could even be in that awkward, tight position, knowing that I'm somehow connected to love. And so as we think about that, we pray about that, and as I think about the answer tomorrow, I look forward to talking to you more about that. Right? And any other questions you might bring tomorrow. So you got a little thumbnail sketch of who I am, and hopefully that's helpful. And if it's, I was saying in the town hall meetings, it's like, what was the big stuff I was saying? It's something like, yeah, I'm not the right person. You know, you have a way of voting to say like, yeah, this is not the right guy. We need to find someone else. We'll start the process again. We don't start the process again. We got time. Right? So anyways, if you feel confident. So thank you for your time, and I'll talk with you more tomorrow. Okay?
All right, everybody, hang on. Quick switch while we bring up our next speaker. We're not actually going to take a break because we're running a little behind. So hang on just one sec. We're going to get George up and going.
Great. Yeah, let's maybe again just take sort of a minute to sit with what Father Paul so lovingly shared about himself, about his journey and some of his vision in responding to some of the questions. And also feel free to, if there are other questions inside of you, there's going to be a box out by the registration table that you can add questions to throughout the day as you think of them, that he'll come back and answer in another portion tomorrow. So let's just take maybe a minute of silence to sit with that presentation and think if you have any other questions you want to raise.
That pounding, dog's barking. What is going on? Huh? What is going on? Kind of hard to see, but they're up there on the roof. Can you see them up there? Up there. There they are. There they are. Yeah, see them?
Come to me, all you who hunger, come be nourished without price. Come and drink of that new river of life. Bring the lowly and the children, bring your labor and your strife. Come and drink of that new river of life. Why waste your money on things that are not real, on food that will not nourish you, and on water that cannot fill? Come to me, all you who hunger, come be nourished without price. Come and drink of that new river of life. Bring the lowly and the children, bring your labor and strife. Come and drink of that new river of life. I am water to the thirsty, to the hungry I am bread. I will bear up your burdens, I will raise you from the dead. Come to me, all you who hunger, come be nourished without price. Come and drink of that new river of life. Bring the lowly and the children, bring your labor and your strife. Come and drink of that new river of life. I will promise my covenant to all who will hear. Come and seek me where I am found. I will always be ever near. Come to me, all you who hunger, come be nourished without price. Come and drink of that new river of life. Bring the lowly and the children, bring your labor and your strife. Come and